This podcast is for the sales professionals at every level. If you want to convert more prospects into paying customers, then you're in the right place. Because Joe has spent the last 3 decades mastering buying behaviors, personality types, emotional and logical triggers. This is the Sales Genius Podcast. It's only a numbers game if you want educated. It's time to get educated. Let's go! Educated. Want to learn how to close deals. Want to learn how to sell more. That's what we're here for at Sales Genius. Let's go!
To quote Joey Mack, let's go. Welcome back to the Sales Genius Podcast. It's me, Joe, right? Today, we have an exciting guest, Jason Henderson. He's an entrepreneur, an author, an inventor, father of 6, who has helped countless business owners take their operations to the next level, right? In this episode, financing your business, a profitable exit strategy, and let's be real, let's plan for the future and see if we can exit. Jason's going to share his insights on how financing your business can become more profitable than the business itself and why it should be a key part of your exit strategy. So let's get ready to learn from one of the best as Jason offers actionable strategies to help you grow, scale, and plan for long-term success. So I'm going to throw Coach Dan up here on the screen with me. Welcome, Coach Dan Gordon.
Hey. So good to be here.
And then
again.
I'm going to bring Jason up here with the awesome lion picture in the background. I'm going to change mine to the same picture on the TV behind me. But Jason, welcome. I'm going to move us around a little bit just because I'm more important. And then, okay, we'll let you be more important, Jason. Fantastic. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for the invite and the opportunity.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw out a question as I always do in the beginning. Right. So you have coached, countless entrepreneurs on the importance of business financing. Right. And most of the entrepreneurs, as I understand it, lived through it, the answer was tired of answering to somebody else. Let me jump out there and I start a business because I said I started a business. And I went out, looked for clients, started delivering on that and go forward. And I'm stuck in this little bouncing back forward of go get more clients, deliver more, right? Hire some people, go get more clients, deliver more, go back and forth, right? Can you explain overall, right, the financing your business, how does it become more profitable than the business itself, right? And hopefully that throws you right into where we were going, right? So why should an entrepreneur plan for it?
Probably the best thing to do is everybody knows that GMAC makes more money than GM, right? Toyota financing makes more money financing the Toyotas that they build than the company makes building them. It's this very exact same thing. It's the financing of your products and services, but also helping you to finance the equipment you have or whatever that you have inside your business. When you look at it from that point of view, because most entrepreneurs, they're living on debt and they're paying tons of interest to somebody else. When you can change that tide, things are rosy.
Got it. Okay. So how does one go about, and again, I don't want to step on whatever you prepared for us, but to me, the answer is how do I get to the point of saying, right? Because I'll throw out, it sounds all awfully Greek to me, right? On how I would go about doing that and getting to that point. So I am your entrepreneur that's a novice in the act of financing things along that way.
Yeah, most everyone, when you're talking about personal finance, you've heard the mantra that a portion of everything you make is yours to keep. Pay yourself first.
Right.
That was recently brought into the business world with a book called Profit First. Right. And inside that book, which I recommend to most entrepreneurs, they need to read that. And what they understand is your profit, in the event you want your profit to come, most people think, oh, it's going to be at the end. No, the profit's got to be first, and you got to take that off the top. And part of that profits then is not necessarily reinvested in the business because you go out and getting more clients. Oh, I got to hire someone. So now I'm behind. And so then invest more in the business, Then what happens? You come to the end and you have a business and nothing really else. When you take profit first and then you strategically position that to be in a situation where then you can start to finance the business That's where it really happens. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Perfect. Okay. So how do I get myself to be in okay, so I'm going to start with it's got to be a shift in mindset, right? So I've got to work on how I view my business completely differently than what I thought it was going to be in the beginning. Am I right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to be looking at your business is exactly this. This is something to make me money, not something for me to do, from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. It needs to be an operation in which is going to be providing for me more than what I'm putting into it. That's what most entrepreneurs go into it. The E-Myth Revisited, the story inside there is the lady loves to make pies, and she does it all day long and could do it all day long. So she starts a
Right.
business making pies. And then you fast forward a couple of years and she hates it, absolutely hates it. She
Right.
has lost the vision of what she started, right? For the fact that as an entrepreneur, you got to put on the accounting hat, you got to put on all the different hats. And what that did for her is took her away from making pies. That's what she wanted to do. Same thing with most entrepreneurs. They lose vision of why they got into the business in the first place. A lot of times that is simply to have financial peace of mind or financial freedom for the fact that they don't think they can get it from a W-2 job or someplace else. That's the original vision. If you keep that in mind, and you were right, Joe, when you talked about it being a mindset, it's absolutely a mindset. However, when we're, from the bumps and bruises along the road, our mindset changes simply because we've been smacked so many times. Well, we got to back up. Like everybody knows, you've heard it. You got to work on the business instead of in the business some of the time. When you're in that mode, in that mindset, that's when you can start to strategically plan and start doing what I'm talking about.
Where did people get lost in that, do you think?
I think one of the first things is and I'm speaking a little bit from my own experience, but I know a lot of people
Yeah.
is unexpected expenses.
Hmm.
I got to do what? Especially like with the first employee, right? The It's okay. Well, I'm paying them this amount of money, and they need to put 7.5% into FICA and SUTA, right? The Social Security and everything. But most people don't realize. Wait a minute, I got to go an extra 7.5% from my pocket to pay my portion of FICA and SUTA. Well, that cuts into your profit. You might have a business that your employees get uh, tips. And in most states, it's illegal for the employer to take any of the tips. Yet there's a credit card charge, right? So if someone tips my employee $100, I'm required to give my employee $100. Yet I pay 3, 4, maybe $5 in credit card charges. So it cost me for them to get a tip. You see what I'm saying? So unexpected
Wow.
expenses they had no clue were coming at them. Workers' compensation insurance. I could go on and on of different expenses. I think that where it starts to get them thinking away from, oh, this is wonderful.
Hmm. And do you think that sort of creates a crash in their entrepreneurial excitement?
Yeah.
I think so.
Amen.
Yeah.
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 It's a brick wall, man. And you bang your head and you get bloodied up, and you don't. Sometimes you're just reeling. The only thing you need to do is, oh well, I got to open tomorrow, right? The business must go on. It's almost like the show, right? The show must go on. Well, the business must go on if I'm going to do this. But a lot of times you're just reeling from different things and never have that chance to really think about what's happening.
Hmm.
So what are, again, like you said, you went through it, so you learned it, right? So we've got the good side going in that one. But what are some of the common misconceptions, I guess, that business owners have about the financing arm? Like what is it that they're looking at and you're like, man, you're looking at it all wrong. We got to look at it this way.
The Where they get their financing from. Most people, we've been so consumerized, right? That the banking function or the financing function, either in our personal lives or in our business lives, oh, we just take the bank takes care of that. I have a banker, right? The reality is banking is a very important business. It's also an extremely profitable business. And we also have the ability to be our own banker. We have the ability to finance stuff ourselves versus running to the bank, getting a loan, and then be enslaved to that loan for 5, 10, 15, whatever long, right? Several years, and it's that payment comes due every single month.
So
How
how
do
do
we
I
do
get
that?
to that
Yeah.
part? Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say my internet's cutting in and out, but yeah, how do I get to the point of doing that?
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is some of it is all right. We're going to take some time and work on the business. It's not while the business is open. It's a time when you can step away and say, okay, strategically, how can I plan this? And then part of that is then getting into the mindset that I'm going to take profit first of my total income. I might take 1, 2%. And when the bill or the accounts receivable comes in, whatever chunk that is, I'm going to take 1 or 2, maybe 3%, and I'm going to put it in a different account. And that's going to stay there. And then I'm going to start to strategically use that account to better my business versus just having it all come in. So, okay, I got to pay that bill, got to pay that bill, got to pay that bill. Oh, look, I have a little bit left. It's a completely different mindset. Say, nope, I'm the owner. I'm the most important here. And my profit is the thing that comes off first.
So now I'm taking I'm greedy. I'll take 3%, right? So I'm going to take the 3% that comes in right off the top, put it into a separate account. So that separate account becomes in my mindset of the bank, right?
Potentially,
In
yes.
traditional thinking. So that way I have the ability. So here's the question, right? Do I then use that on the business, but charge the business as an account receivable, pay them interest kind of deal?
Yeah, I
Where,
wouldn't call it accounts receivable, but a loan, right? That it's
okay.
borrowing, the business is borrowing from that account, and the business must pay that back with principal and interest.
All right. So now my brain goes another way. So do I set up an LLC for that account that I flip it over to? And maybe you're going, Joe, just shut up and go put money in an account, right? But to me, do I set it up over that way and then it becomes a feeder fish business kind of thing where eventually I'd be able to go fund other things for other people kind of stuff? Sorry, my brain just went crazy on that.
No, but the problem with you, Joe, is you're too smart. Okay. You just leapfrog several steps, which is cool, right? Because you're thinking, oh, all right, well, LLC, that sets up another tax return. I can have tax deductions, da, 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 da. And then I also have this separate business that I can finance, Dan's business. Because Dan doesn't understand what you understand, right? And Dan needs money, and you can finance his things for him and make a killing on it, right? So we become really the financing arm for multiple businesses. So great thinking, Joe.
Okay. No, I like that because that just sparked my head like crazy. So, and we're on Sales Genius, so you got so smart, you just do. So that's fantastic. So when we look at this, so how do they start incorporating this in the long-term plan? Is it immediately I look at it and again, read Profit First, got that one. Contact Jason so he can do a one-on-one with you, right? And how would you go about contacting Jason? You would just go, Joe, what's on the screen? And I'd be like, the link right there. AskJasonH.com. Go there, schedule a time with him to talk. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, I think I'm gonna do it. I start this tomorrow, right? So technically, depending on when your receivables come in, right? So it may be a November 1st kind of thing. So you start next month, you're gonna grab it and say, here, this is now part of my long-term plan. So I am assuming there's a lot of stuff that is way beyond. I just simply put money into account so I have it to fund the business and have it charge interest that I'm missing. That why I would need Jason to help me, right?
Absolutely. However, that's the beginning, right? And you can't get over that mindset change, can't get over that hump. It's going to be very difficult for me to help you. You can get in that and you can be disciplined, and then you can say, I'm leaving it there and I'm only using that money as a source of funding for the business, and the business will pay back with principal and interest, right? It will be a loan, You can do that. I can show you. Then now the discussion becomes, where's the best place to store that cash? Right? Is it simply in a checking account? Is it in a different bank that's, the next town over? So it's difficult to get to. So it, helps you in your mindset and we all have this tendencies. Oh, well, there's cash. I'll just use it. The reality is when we pay cash for something, our future selves or our future business is financing that, right? Because it gave up the cash plus the growth or whatever would have been grown to during that time frame. Now the discussion is, where do we best hold that? And just as a kind of I don't know why I want to tell you this example. I was given a speech once, and there were in the group, there was an individual who owned Bank of America stock. And there was also an individual in the group that had a loan from the Bank of America. And I go, well, how much is your stock dividends? And it's fairly low. It was like 2 point something, right? The dividends on the stock. And then I looked at the other person. Well, how much is your loan interest? It was 9%. It's like, Now you have how much in stock? And they gave a number. And this other person, how much is your loan? It was less than that number, right? And I said, well, why don't you sell your stock and loan the money to them and get 9%? Why do we have an intermediary here going through Bank of America, right? Why is one store paying to Bank of America who's turning around and giving a little bit to this person, and the CEO and the C-suite is all getting multi-$100 million bonuses? Something's wrong. We need to understand how to do that on an individual level. So now we start talking, where's the best place to store it? Is it in a coffee can, buried in the backyard? Is it a stock fund, a mutual fund, an ETF? When you really look at it, and that's what I'm really big proponent of, it's whole life insurance designed for cash accumulation.
So I'm picking up that you don't like the coffee can as an option. Is that right? So I need to go dig up stuff. Yeah.
If you're going to crawl before you run, it might be a good place to do it. It's just that there's not a whole lot of safety there. And of course, there's no growth other than the interest that you'd be paying back to the coffee can.
Okay.
So when you talk about whole life insurance, right? I mean, immediately when you say that, like, okay, now why is insurance the thing that I should invest in?
It allows you to be in the banking business, right? It allows you to have the best place to store the money. See, in the financial world, there's essentially 3, sometimes 4 key components, right? And if you could kind of imagine that we have 3 circles, right? And there we have a saver. A saver puts their money in the bank. Now, the money doesn't stay there. Everybody knows that intuitively, but we really don't think about it. As soon as that money comes into the bank, they turn around and lend it to the third player in the play, and that is the borrower. And the borrower then is on the hook to pay back principal and interest. Well, the bank promises to pay the saver a very small amount of interest. And a really simplistic, rude, if you will, crude way of saying it, bank's business is buying and selling money.
Yeah.
They're buying money from savers and selling it to borrowers at a much higher amount, and they keep the difference.
Yeah.
Now, the fourth player in the play are the owners of the bank. Right. So all the income that comes in, they pay their employees, they pay the utilities, whatever, and then they get the profit. What most people don't understand is the exact same play is happening in the insurance world. The difference being that I, as an individual, can be an owner of the insurance company by going with the right insurance company, a mutual company, right? So now I can be the saver, the banker, the borrower, and the bank owner all at the same time.
And so how does that work?
You simply have a policy with a mutual company, and yet have it designed for cash accumulation. And everybody's going to say out there, whole life insurance is a terrible investment. And I'm going to say, you're absolutely right when it's designed for death benefit. The insurance industry is awash and so caught up with the idea that death benefit is the most important thing. Death benefit is important. Don't get me wrong there. However, the insurance industry has not described the financing capabilities of a whole life insurance contract the way they should. They've talked all about death benefit. So let me give you an example. Let's say you come to me and say, Jason, hey, I really feel like I need to be saving or putting away about $10,000 a year. And I'm a typical insurance agent. And I'll say, well, look, you can have this huge death benefit and I'll set you up with a policy. And my commission can be like $9,500. Okay. That's not the way it's going to be. That's what typical is for the fact you don't have any cash value for a while. You have a nice death benefit. Great. However, when you can design it for cash, which I can do, my commission is $950. And the difference between the two is about $8,000. Well, that would show up as cash value for you immediately. So I use my 10,000 to get me a death benefit, something have cash off the IRS radar. Yet you have a line of credit now with the insurance company, $8,000. Maybe you could finance a piece of equipment for the business. I don't know which, right? In the event you did more, you could finance whatever, right? And each year your line of credit gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to where you could finance essentially the whole business through it, all of your finance, all of your equipment. Maybe you build a building, maybe you, whatever it is, right? I mean, you can really finance. And then, because now the business is still in debt to maybe another LLC that Joe, eloquently pointed out.
But Joe didn't do that yet. Yes. So, but yeah, your business is still in debt, right?
Yeah,
but paying
it's
your
no
whole
different
life
than what
policy
most
back.
people have, right? No, most
Right.
people, that's the way it is. Business is in debt. It's paying a lot of interest to someone else. I mean, sometimes entrepreneurs get to the point and says, wait a minute, I thought I could work half days, which they are. The only problem is knowing which 12 hours to work. They just,
True statement.
they are simply, they're working so hard to make the banks rich. The banks are making more off their business than they are. And that's the tide you got to change.
So are you saying, like, with the right policy, you essentially become the bank owner and the lender and also the investor?
The saver and the borrower.
All right.
I
The bank
that,
of Coach
you're
Dan. I love it.
all the way across. Yes.
Yeah.
Good job, Dan, for the summary. But yeah, no, I love that idea because, again, the answer is go put it into a checking account, which is going to earn you 0.000 something, right? Or put it into a policy where you still have access to the cash, but can go and utilize it for your business and pay it back and go through. So does it ever, like you said, it's off the radar. So does it, and this is a novice question, right? How does that affect any credit rating or anything for your business? It doesn't, it just gives you cash flow or?
Good question, Joe.
Yeah.
That's like a Dan style question. Way to go, man.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Joe is on a roll. It does not affect your credit rating. It does not actually report anything. So it might be actually detrimental. However, think about the ultimate. In the event I have enough credit line with the insurance company to finance everything in my business, what do I care about my credit rating? I have a line of credit, right? And that's really what you're building. You're building something to where you don't need credit from someone else. You're going to rely all on your own financing.
But you have to build up a certain amount of financing to take a loan from yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I gave you the $10,000 a year example, right? Mm-hmm. So right away you can have an $8,000 line of credit. Well, the next year it's going to be, 16.5 or 16.8, and the next year it goes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. To where you get to the point that, you can finance everything. Maybe you only finance, I don't know, a part of a car first year, or, pneumatic hammers because you're a roofer. I don't know. But you build to where you can finance everything.
No, that makes perfect sense because, and again, I love this because this is literally, Jason, my brain has been expanded as we go through this, because I had never looked at business this way. I'm sure you hear that a lot from entrepreneurs, right? That's the point. That's the point of bringing you on, is to say, hey, how do you finance your own business? Now, if I don't have 10 grand lump sum, then I'm depositing as I go through the year. So then by the end of the year, I'd have that 8 grand to play with, right? Is that what I'm looking at?
Essentially,
Or
yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So again, that's where, Dan, you were like, well, I could, but that's only if you stroked a check for 10 grand the first time and then had access to it. But let's be real. If you continue doing business as you're doing now, you don't have anything later on. And I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure it's 99% of all entrepreneurs are trying to pay themselves first, get caught paying more bills, and forget to pay themselves, and end up in that same, the month keeps going even though the money stopped coming in. So, right, the goal is what? Make the money and the month and match up at the same time so you can survive. But if you can get everything in the beginning and paid in the beginning, you still have month, that's even wonderful, right? And that's where I look at it. So, but Jason, thank you. I appreciate you for actually coming on and sharing that with us. So the next step for everybody, right, as we start asking more and more questions, and I'm not saying give away the secret sauce here. The answer is jump on a call with you, because it's going to have to be uniquely built for every scenario, right? And that's where your expertise comes in, and you can say, okay, I got that. But right now, as an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell you, I don't see any other way for you to get out of the rat race you built for yourself, right? We built ourselves our own maze, and we're in it going, I hate that I'm in a maze. Well, yeah, we built it. So, and Dan and I in the same industry and entrepreneurs, right? We go through this, we have these discussions going, yeah, what's going to happen tomorrow? Let's go try. What can we come up with this, right? I told my wife the other day, I was like, I don't know. Should we just take every amount of savings out of the bank and just go buy lotto tickets and, play roulette, see if we win? She's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah.
I'm going to wave you off of that one, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. I go dig up all the, the coffee cans in the backyard now, because that's not the right way to do it. But
so, Jason, how should someone get started in this? Because this is a lot of information. How do you begin?
I think what you said early on, Dan, about a mindset. There's a mindset change, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to reevaluate why we're in business, what we're going to do, and say, just be determined from now going forward. I'm going to start taking some profit for myself, and I'm going to put it somewhere else. Maybe it's 0.5%, maybe whatever it is, any amount works. For the fact that you put that someplace else, it's going to start to accumulate. Now, would you be able to do what I say and is the ultimate and have a whole life policy? Maybe not. However, you're going in the right direction, even if it's a few bucks a week, right? You're going in the right direction. And part of that, there's a certain feeling of euphoria that comes knowing that you're putting money away for something, right? And every time you go in, I mean, I would recommend, if they have a one account that's an accounts receivable at a bank, that they set up another money market account and go in whenever there's money that comes in, and they peel off whatever the money was that day, 0.5%, 3%, whatever, and put it in that account, right? And just start watching it grow over time. That will help you to start feeling like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. I might be getting there really slow, right? But still, the tortoise always wins, right? It always wins. So simply starting, and that's what I'd say is the first place to start. Just start doing it.
Well, you're giving the tortoise a skateboard, right? So the tortoise can still put out the same amount of energy, just get there faster. Yes, I like it. Now, this makes perfect sense. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you. So the overall, I'm going to go back to the call of action right now. AskJasonH.com. Go there, schedule a time with him. Why? Because there's a lot of variables. And guess what? Jason was nice enough to say, here's the link, go schedule a time. I would say entrepreneurs, go out there. Those of you watching on the replay or on the Sales Genius podcast, right? I'm going to say you guys need to go out there, reach out, because as Dan said, how do you get started? Why struggle in the beginning if you can have someone like Jason go, this is the steps you need to take. Right. And it may be, here's the steps you need to take, 1, 2, and 3. When you're done, call me. We'll amp it up and next level it at this point. But I would much rather you guys got involved early on with the right way, because if you had done this 5 years ago, where would you be? Right. If I had Jason on 5 years ago, where would we all be? So I blame Dan, but that's because he's here.
You know, you hit on something there. Every single person I have worked with tells me initially they say, yeah, this is a little too good to be true. And they also, everyone will eventually say, I wished I would have known about this X years ago, right? Because that's what you said. Had I started that 3 years ago or 5 years ago, where would I be today? Well, guess what? None of us have that ability to make that happen for you. So the next best time is to start right now.
Right. I accidentally sent my time machine back in time, and so I wasn't in it.
I told you.
So, yeah. So, yeah, it was one of the little remotes. I misread the pre-start, but perfect. So, Jason, thank you so much for coming out and explaining it to us. And I'm going to tell you, you made it sound way too easy, right? But you probably should have thrown in some extra hurdles for us to go through and come up with something. But the answer is, you've given us a lot of information in 30 minutes. Grateful that you actually came out and shared this with us. And I encourage everybody to reach back out to you. Dan, anything else before we depart?
No, I just encourage everybody, askjasonh.com. You know, it really is a one-on-one deep dive. And I know for sure that you are going to help whoever ends up on the call. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, Jason.
Thank you. It's been fun.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you both. And everybody else, go out and sell something. Right?
Hell
That's
yeah.
what we do. Yes.
Let's talk about sales, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the challenges that may be. Let's talk about sales. A little bit,